Hello and welcome to my new YouTube channel. My name is Jason and I'd highly recommend subscribing, especially if you're a Fulham fan, as a lot of my content is going to be heavily Fulham based, given the fact I'm a Fulham fan myself. In this video, I'll be going over the Crystal Palace match, and in proper Fulham fashion, the first match I'm analysing is a loss. So let's get straight into it, starting off with the lineups. Now, as expected, Marco Silva stayed unchanged from our 2-1 win over Nottingham Forest, which was one of, if not the best performance of the season so far. Seeing Lukic cleared to play was good, as he was forced off last week with injury. In terms of system, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. A 4-2-3-1 with Smith Rowe having free roam in the centre, and then it was also a 4-4-2 in defence. Principal stuff from Marco Silva. But I think this game was more about what Crystal Palace did right rather than what Fulham did wrong. And what they did was being aggressive. Now, we spoke about how Fulham probably had their best performance of the season so far against Forest the weekend before. And on the face of things, Forest and Crystal Palace play a similar style in terms of a back three / a back five. But the difference here was the centre-backs, especially Mark Gahey, who would be aggressive in his challenges, unsettling us and giving us barely any time to think about what to do. Against Nottingham Forest, we had time to get pinpoint crosses into the box, as shown by Smith Rowe's goal that day. Now, don't get me wrong, presses like this can actually favour us at times, because with little give and goes, it creates space in behind for our other attackers. But when you have someone like Maxence Lacroix who's able to cover with all his pace, it makes it very difficult for us to create any real attacking patterns. Another way Crystal Palace managed to unsettle us at times was by getting 2 or maybe even 3 players on our wingers, as shown here, especially on our right-hand side with Adama, who we all know isn't the best technically. On our left-hand side, Crystal Palace actually stayed more reserved because of the technical ability of Iwobi and the possibility of an overlap from Anthony Robinson. However, we were still nullified in that area. And if you shut out our wingers, you've pretty much dealt with the entire team, as we actually rank last in the Premier League for percentage of chances created through the middle third at a measly 28.5%. Now, looking at the selected match stats here, Crystal Palace's aggression certainly rewarded them in terms of their tackles percentage won at 92% compared to Fulham's 62%, and almost doubling our ground duels won at 42-24. And it's not like Crystal Palace just defended the whole game either. They were defending in numbers, but also attacking in numbers, with Munoz and Mitchell actually acting like wingers when Crystal Palace had possession. And that's certainly where the second goal came from, Munoz being in that position on the right wing. And it was a brilliant finish from in the roof of the net. And whilst it's like a near post finish, it's very difficult for a goalkeeper to stop that. Going back to the selected match stats then, only 38% possession, but a lot more created in terms of XG. And also 2 big chances missed, which would have made it 4-0 on the day, which would have been very harsh on Fulham. It definitely wasn't a 4-0 type of game. I think 2-0 was the fair and right result. But to be that dominant from a Crystal Palace point of view, it's very good for them, as they make it 4 wins away from home on the bounce. But the damning statistic for Fulham is that 0 shots on target from 10 shots, and that just sums up how the afternoon went for them. You know, looking at the pass stats, the pass completion rates from Raul Jimenez and the 3 behind him, 57%, 64%, 70% and 75%. There was a real lack of end product on the day. Only 1 of the 6 crosses attempted from our fullbacks actually meeting a Fulham player. It was just so poor and frustrating to watch, and this hoodoo of Crystal Palace at home just continues. We haven't beaten them since January 2005. There's a big issue with our wingers at the moment. You know, Alex Iwobi has been off the boil for quite some time. Adama Traore isn't good technically. Reece Nelson's out for the season. Harry Wilson has got a long-term injury. And Willian, given the fact he's only been given 10 minutes on Saturday, suggests he's nowhere near match fit, because I'm sure if he was more match fit, he would have been given more time to influence the game and try and change the game around. So there's a big issue there, and I don't know what the solution is. It's becoming quite concerning. Another issue for us was the 2 injuries that we picked up in that match to Tom Kearney and Emil Smith Rowe. Tom Kearney actually came on in the 58th minute and subsequently came off in the 80th. Luckily for us, listening to Marco Silva's press conference, it didn't sound too bad. If I would imagine, they're not going to be involved for Wolves, but should be ready for our FA Cup quarter-final match against Man United this weekend. Depending on Andreas Pereira's performance against Wolves, I'd imagine that Andreas Pereira will start against Man United and Emil Smith-Rowe will start on the bench. In terms of league position, we are down to 10th after that result. We were originally 8th. Aston Villa, who now occupy that spot, are 3 points ahead of us, even though we have a game in hand over them. So we are definitely still in contention for Europe, although reading Fulham Twitter after the match, you'd think we were nowhere near it. But that just wraps up everything you need to know about Crystal Palace's win over London's original football club. Please follow me on all my socials and leave a like on the video. Also follow the Cottage Tactico. That's where I get a lot of the analysis from. So go support him. He does a lot of great work. I'll be back for the Wolves match that's going on tonight. But until then, goodbye.